like beyond what they can do, like after the workout they're just totally exhausted and spent. If that's the case, it's too much. You're draining your body, you're draining your adrenals, and it puts you in an energy deficit going forward. So it just might not be the right kind of workout for your body type, or at least the state it's in right now. You should feel great after you work out. You should feel rested, you should feel kind of energized, you moved your blood, you should feel good. So if it's too intense, scale it down to something else. Mountain biking works for him. It has the stress response on me when I see what he does. It's kind of a daredevil. Sports drinks is a common thing I see, and my kids are now at the age where they're having soccer games, and whoever's the snack mom, they always bring the Powerades and the Gatorades to these young kids, 7, 8, 9. Those drinks are so bad for you. First of all, it's way too much sugar. Second of all, it has a chemical dye that can cause all kinds of cognitive problems for you. And really, if you're trying to replace electrolytes, coconut water works great. Water, if you squeeze a lemon in it, a little bit of lemon juice and a pinch of salt, that works great. If you want it to be sweet, you can add liquid stevia. That's the only sweetener that will not mess with your blood sugar. And all the other sweeteners, even agave nectar, they will increase your insulin response and eventually cause you fatigue and weight gain and all that stuff. Stevia is the one safe one. Let's see. So it's important to move every day, not a full-on workout, but some kind of movement. So on the days you're not having a big workout, it's good to have a long walk and just move your blood. And then also, in the hours and hours of studying, it's good to get up every hour and just do some, like, run around the block or do a bunch of jumping jacks and just reinvigorate your blood. So we talked about that. I want to tell one quick story. So yoga is another one of my big life passions, and that pose is called side crow, which I wanted to do for years and years and years and couldn't do it. There's a pose that's very similar where you do it from the front and get up like this, just called regular crow, and that one on my first try I was able to do it. So when I saw the instructor do that, I thought I would be able to get right up, but I didn't. It was really hard for me, and when you fall out of side crow, you fall right on your face. And it hurts, and it's embarrassing, it makes a loud noise. So this frustrated me for a few years in yoga. It was this athletic accomplishment I really wanted to have, and I just couldn't get there. And every class, I knew it was coming. I'm like, okay, today's the day I'm going to do it. And I was like, I know I'm strong enough to do it, and I've got the flexibility to do it. And I, in theory, had all the things you need to be able to do it, and then I just kept falling on my face. And the instructor stood right over me, looking down, and she was to the whole class, but it was really like to me and my frustration. Can you do it not from a place of struggle and frustration, but from a place of love for your practice and everything it's given to you in your life? Can you do it from a place of beauty? Can you do it from a place of effortless ease? Don't try so hard, try easy. And that just really struck me because I was trying so hard and I just couldn't get there, trying through force. But when I really thought of it as like a graceful dance or doing it out of love for my practice, out of gratitude, somehow it just lifted me up and I got there the first time. So to me, that's a really meaningful pose and story, and the way to look at life too, instead of powering through things and forcing things, to try to do things with a little bit of ease and out of the love of the goal you're working on and what you're doing rather than forcing. Let's see. I thought this was a great quote. It really applies to fitness and exercise. So exercise really is a habit, right? I mean, it's easy to get out of that habit, and it's hard to keep the habit up because we can always find things that we have to do, whereas exercise feels sort of optional. So I always tell patients to look at exercise. It's an appointment, and you can't break it unless it's an emergency, and it should be scheduled into your life. There's another quote, kind of a similar idea. All right, number 4, sense of purpose. We all need to have some kind of meaning in our life, or something like a reason why we're here, a reason for doing what we're doing, something that gives your life meaning, and also something in mind we want to accomplish. And so it's a good idea, like whenever I was in school, my dad, who I guess talked to you guys and you met him, he used to always tell me to write straight A's on my mirror when I was brushing my teeth, and so I would always see it, and eventually it kind of, you almost sort of like in a positively brainwash yourself, where it's like, yeah, straight A's, you've thought of it so many times that it just sort of helps it come into being. Another example is you told me you recently found a book of mine from when I was in high school, and I signed it. I signed the side of the book, Dr. Debbie, licensed, blah, 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 with what I do. Because I really wanted it to come true, so I started to write it down as if it already happened, so my mind was really programmed to go in that direction. So I think it's great to have a password that inspires you. I like all my passwords to be really inspirational, things that are goals or things that give me a really good feeling. For example, like once upon a time, like straight A's would be an example in school, or whatever it is that you want to do, because you're going to repeatedly type in your name as a login and then password, so you associate that positive thing then with your name every time you log into something. This is just a quote I love about keeping positive people in your life, people that really believe in your dreams and stand behind you, and not giving too much of your attention or your energy to people that aren't part of that picture of where you want to go. Which would have been great advice to have in college. One study I read was studying people that lived to be over 100 years old, and they found out the secret was that they had very low stress in their life. They had a really strong sense of community. Like, the whole village was helping raise the kids, and they all worked together doing things. They spent a lot of time outside. So that idea of having a lifestyle where there's a lot of community and a lot of people in your corner, it really helps you move in the direction of your life you're trying to go. All right, so the last one, sunshine or time outside. So I was shocked to find the statistic. The average American spends 93% of their time inside. It's like no wonder our culture is plagued with so many chronic diseases. 85% are too low in vitamin D. Everyone I've ever tested has been too low in vitamin D. I don't think I've ever had someone come back normal. Vitamin D is really actually more of a hormone than it is a vitamin. And without it, we'd have all these chronic diseases. Like every cancer patient is going to have low vitamin D. Everyone with a chronic disease, you'll see low vitamin D unless they're supplementing it. Very important to have enough. And what most people don't realize, we think of vitamin D as the sunshine vitamin, but if you're wearing sunscreen, that blocks it. If you have dark skin, the dark skin blocks the vitamin D absorption. So you may naturally have a little bit less. So very, very light-skinned people tend to be really down on vitamin D because they tend to be good about sunscreen because they'll burn, and then very dark-skinned people tend to be low. So it's just good to be aware of because it's very easy to supplement and get back up to speed. And indoor air pollution. It's because of our cleansers. It's because our walls are outgassing from the paint. It's from all kinds of things. There are some plants that will help clean the air that you can get even at Lowe's or a hardware store, but really it's important to air out the house regularly because indoor air pollution is actually a big problem. Okay, I was thinking about you guys and knowing that you guys are spending lots of time sitting. And it's so easy when you're really studying to forget about your posture and really get into some kind of bent over position. So I'm going to talk to you just briefly. So that's the correct position, and then that's the position if you're trying to get neck or back pain. So there's a few things you can do that'll help. Like your laptop, you should be looking at it at eye level. You shouldn't be looking down at books or your computer or up. It should be straight ahead because that puts the least stress on your muscles. So I have my laptop up on a little foam wedge so I can just look straight ahead. And there's lumbar supports to put behind your back so you stay upright and don't collapse. Or I even use a little workout ball because it will kind of squish and bounce, and then when you turn, it kind of moves with you a little bit. So that's another option. But it's really important to get up and move, every hour, move your blood around. Okay, so just to know where you're at as far as your muscle tension, this is something I treat a lot. Probably 80% of my first patients are coming in with neck or back pain to start, and then we get into the more complex stuff. So you should be able to move your head all the way down up to fitting 2 fingers between your chin and your chest. You should be able to look all the way up to the ceiling, almost over your shoulder, and then the ear should be able to come halfway down. So if you're restricted anywhere, the muscles are going to be tight on one side, loose on the other, and it will get worse and worse as you age if you don't treat it. So make sure you have that full range of motion. And if you don't, it can be worked on. There's certain stretches you can do, and you can see practitioners and get that treated. The back, you should be able to lean back about this far, and you should be able to reach down and touch your toes. You should be able to come halfway down, lateral flexion this way, and you should be able to rotate diagonal to the opposite wall. So if you're held up in any of those, it's good to get it treated while you're young and pliable because your body stiffens as you get older. Let's see. Okay, one other thing I thought would be valuable to teach you guys that you may not get somewhere else is the chemicals that are found in our body care products, like our shampoo, conditioner, lotion, and soaps. And our government allows a lot of things to be put in these products that other countries, European countries, have banned. So it's good to be aware of them. So propylene glycol, very common. Probably everyone in here has something with propylene glycol in it. It denatures the protein in your skin, so you end up with saggier, looser skin, and also more permeable to other toxins in the product. Sodium lauryl sulfate, that's what makes suds, and kind of does the same thing. It breaks down the skin by denaturing the protein and eventually leaves the skin looking older over time. Fragrance is sort of like natural flavors. It's like, well, what is it? Obviously there's a fragrance, but what is it making it smell that way? And so if they don't want to tell you, that means it's something bad. So it could be any of about 200 chemicals. And many of these chemicals cause some obvious things like rashes, but they can cause some worse things like cancer and fatigue and depression. And plastics, like the plastic water bottles, even if it says BPA free, that's not good enough because all plastics will leach their chemicals into the water, whatever is inside the bottle. So it's good to not drink out of plastic things or microwave food in a plastic container because it will leach into the food and then you'll be drinking that plastic. A lot of plastic can be estrogen mimicking, so if you have an estrogen positive cancer, it can be feeding those tumors, and so in that way it's carcinogenic. It's also carcinogenic in the way that it's hard for your body to get rid of it once it's in there. A couple more, parabens, highly toxic. It's the preservative that prevents like bacteria growing in your lotion and soap, but it also can cause all kinds of health problems. And then synthetic colors, and also in the food, anything with food coloring is really bad for you. And this includes hair dye, whether you got it done at a salon or it was a box kind of thing. It goes right into your skin, and a lot of things get into your bloodstream. Okay, last thing before question and answer, I have these toxicity forms where you rate all these different symptoms you might have in your different body systems, like lungs or digestive, and then you get a total at the end of your symptoms, how intense the symptoms are and how frequently you have them. And so I wanted to encourage you guys, I'll give you each one of these, to take the quiz, see where you're at right now, and then pick one habit, and I would say be ambitious and pick whatever your worst habit is, like not exercising or not drinking enough water or just whatever it is. Try to eliminate that for a month, and then take this again, and you'll see how much that number goes down. And it'll also show you where that thing is affecting your body. I use this in my practice when I put people on a fast or a cleanse, and I have them do a before and after, and it's often the number is cut in half. And then they can really see where the bad things they're eating or drinking or doing are affecting the different parts of their body. So I'll pass this pad around, and then question and answer.
Yes, Rachel. Okay, so you said that commercialized milk is no bueno.
Right.
So is there any kind of milk that is okay?
Well, I'm a big fan of the homemade nut milks, like homemade almond milk. It's very good for you. Basically, human beings just don't need to drink milk. And so it's sort of an extra task. It's hard to break down the size of the protein, even in raw milk. But if you're going to drink milk, raw milk is way more nutritious because all the vitamins, enzymes, cofactors, they're all intact. And so it's at least highly nutritious. Some people just can't digest milk. They're lactose intolerant. A lot more people than you can realize. Some people will feel terrible after, but some people just feel mildly uncomfortable. I read a statistic recently that only 30% of people can actually fully digest milk.
So it doesn't matter if it's organic or not or whatever?
The best kind of milk if you're going to drink milk is raw milk, which you can sometimes get at a farmer's market, sort of under the table because they're not supposed to sell it, but I've found it a few times. Yeah. But the pasteurization kills the nutrients.
So you mentioned one of the sweeteners that you put in the water that wasn't harmful for you, or like you said substitute for Gatorade. I was wondering like how that worked because I know I forget the name.
Stevia?
Stevia. Is
Yeah.
it like the one in like HEB that you can just buy in like
Mhm.
colors and water?
It'll come in powder, like in sugar packets, or it'll come in
Yeah.
a dropper. And the liquid version's a little healthier. It's a little less processed, but it's also easier to use it because it dissolves a little better. So like at home, I have this big 5-gallon container in the fridge, and I always have raw lemonade for my boys. So I put raw lemon juice, stevia to taste, and then just water.
And do you know what's in the stevia that makes it not like more healthy, or does it not?
Yeah, stevia is actually a plant. It's an herb. Like if you go to a plant store and find stevia and it looks like mint kind of, and
Yeah.
just take a leaf, it tastes like sugar.
Okay.
But it has a really low glycemic index. It doesn't create a sugar kind of response. And it's very strong, like a little, if you're gonna buy liquid stevia, use way less than you think because it's 200 times sweeter than sugar.
What?
So if you're thinking of it like liquid sugar, use like way less and you can always add more. It's a strong. Did you have a question?
Yeah, so you're talking about like grainy carbs and how they're not good for you, like breads and all that stuff. So what are the carbs that are, like what carbs should we eat?
Like the vegetable carbs, like the root vegetables, carrots, beets, a little bit of potatoes, but not too much. It's just because they're not quite as nutritious as the others. And you know, pretty much everything you eat has carbs in it. Like meat does, like a lot of the vegetables do. So just avoid those processed carbs because they've kind of been stripped of all the nutrient value, and then you end up with weight gain and digestive problems and then all the other. And you know, a little bit of rice is okay. It's about portion control too. A little bit of beans is okay, but you don't want to have a whole bowl of it. That's just way more than you can process at once because it does break down into sugar. You have 9 grams worth of insulin to process that sugar in, so if you have more than that, then that insulin hangs around and eventually you store fat. Yeah.
I'm from Vietnam, so Asian people eat rice
Rice.
a lot. So what would your advice like to us to change the habit?
Oh, well, I've got a really cool modification you can do with rice and some of the other grains. You can soak it overnight with good water, purified water, just in a bowl. And then in the morning you drain that and rinse it off and then cook it. And so that's called sprouting. And that will actually change it from a carb more to like a vegetable or a sprout. Like you can do that with quinoa, with rice, even with wheat berries, which is where wheat comes from. So that makes it a little bit healthier. It makes it so that when you digest it, you don't need quite so much insulin to break it down. But like I said, a little bit of rice is fine, a little bowl of rice, but just a whole bowl, even though it's not sweet, it breaks down into so much glucose, more than we can handle. So more vegetables and a little bit of meat and then a small amount of rice. Yes.
So were you saying soy is bad?
Yes. I will say that.
Okay, because I was a vegetarian for a while, and I was looking for good protein sources, and the only one I could find is from beans and tofu.
Mm-hmm. What about the green algae?
I couldn't find that source.
Oh, okay.
Like I heard of like that and spirulina, something like that.
That's actually really high in protein, burns really clean, and that's usually the athletes that are vegan and vegetarian, they kind of go for those for protein. Because it won't affect your blood sugar and it doesn't cause any problems with soy. First of all, we just can't get good soy here. It's just not, it's all GMO and processed, and it's bad. But then also it's just not a plant food that we would digest that well anyway. So, I think we need a lot less protein than we've been told, actually. I think we need more fat than we've been told. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a question. So when we go to the supermarket and like we look at the products like in grains or even like buying soy, like how, so do we just assume they're all like made with GMO and like we can't like.
Pretty much, because I think it's like
Basically.
95%.
And
And the
so-
reason they use it in so many products is it's so cheap to mass produce it, just like corn is. And so it's a big filler. And it makes you kind of full, that's what it is, it just fills up. So you have a lot of the substance, it's not really giving anything to you, and then very little of whatever else is in the product usually.
So is there like no hope except going to the farmer's market or even like what should we look in like the food labels or does even like the food labels I guess are misleading and
They are misleading. Like in
So-
Europe, it's totally different. They disclose way more of the ingredients. They're a little more honest. But I think here in America, the lobbyists of these major, big Agra and big milk and all dairy, they lobby for these laws where they don't have to be so transparent on their labels. And if you look at the cancer rate here compared to other places, like that's the result. In the state of chronic disease, 1 in 3 adults in our country has a chronic disease, like cancer, diabetes, lupus, fibromyalgia, 1 in 3. So we're a pretty sick nation. And a lot of this, we eat foods that are advertised to us as health foods, but they're some of the worst things that you can eat. Or even if you buy organic eggs, but it's from a cow, or sorry, it's from a chicken that wasn't able to graze, and they're eating corn. Chickens don't eat corn. So all these poor chickens are so sick, and so the egg they produce, even if it's organic, it's not good quality egg because it wasn't healthy chicken. So, does that answer your question?
yeah, so I guess just don't eat anything.
Don't eat anything. Don't eat
Photosynthesis.
anything.
No, it's just me. But yeah.
Well, try to eat things that aren't in a package. Try to eat whole foods, like lots of vegetables, a little bit of fruits, a little bit of meat, or some other protein. And then lots of healthy fats. The avocado, coconut, all those things that pull inflammation out of the system, and they keep you trim, stabilize your blood sugar, things like that. More than anything in a box, it's kind of hard to trust it. We don't really know what we're getting, But if it says natural flavors or natural colors or, I just won't even buy it because I know that if it was something that we would want, like it's flavored with lemon juice, then they would say lemon juice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know most of us are on a tighter budget. Is there like one thing that we should take away from or put of higher importance, or what would you say to somebody more on a budget? Because I just know they're more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, let me just tell you, when I was in college and I was working my 3 jobs, one of which was like cleaning toilets, and the other one was the overnight shift as a waitress, and I had no money at all getting 2 degrees. Believe me, and I didn't know any of this yet. I was so happy when I could afford to supersize it, and all my meals were some kind of fast food garbage, and I ended up having all kinds of health problems I didn't even know where to begin fixing. So I understand that, living on a budget, and how do you afford good foods. I mean, typically when you're eating whole foods, it's pretty cheap, like putting together a salad with several different veggies. And if you look up raw foods, which is actually its own cuisine, raw food cooking, you can find really simple salad dressings and really simple, like even really healthy desserts made out of nuts and fruits and things. And they're all pretty cheap to make when you work with whole foods. It's when you buy packaged things that actually it's more expensive. But I would say if you're buying animal products, those are where I would really spend more money and get the really good quality, like the grass-fed meat. It's totally different than a grain-fed meat or the free-range eggs instead of the caged eggs.